Good afternoon, everybody. How are we doing? Hope we're all well. Hello, Annette, our urban homestead. It's so lovely to see you. Good evening to you over in Australia. Oh, pardon me. So it's absolutely steaming hot here. So there's been a couple of little changes to what I was going to do today. One of them being I was going to be making soy milk. I'm not going to be making soy milk now. I'm going to be making a nut milk and a seed milk or a oat milk or something. We're going to do a couple, but I'm not going to be doing soy milk because in the house right now, it's about 36 degrees Celsius, which is up in the late 80s, 90s for all of you on the, it's hot. Okay, so we're not going to be doing that. But that's okay because we have other things that we can be doing. But what I want to do is I want to talk to you guys about dairy and the truth behind it and what we've been led to believe and what is the truth and such like that. Okay, but before I start, what I do want to say is this. This is not an attack on any of my friends whatsoever who work in the dairy industry, who are dairy farmers, who raise their own cattle or any of that. That's entirely your choice and that's up to you. What I'm doing is part of the Wellness for the Healthiness series, which is, it's important that we know why we're eating what we are or consuming what we are and why possibly for our health it's not as good as we thought that it might. We've been led to believe that it is. Okay, so just want to say that off the bat before anything else here today, okay, because some of the stuff that I'm going to tell you, you're either going to get really angry about, either at the people who started it or at me for saying it. But either way, it's a conversation that needs to be had, okay? And especially as part of this Wellness for Healthiness program, it's very, very important. Okay, so we're going to start off with a little bit of talkies and then I'm going to go into the other room and we're going to start on there, okay? You've got 8 degrees Celsius here tonight. Love it. Oh, do you know what? I'll swap you. I'll swap you now. I really, really do. Will. I really will. Okay. So, first off, I want to talk about some of the things that we are led to believe and taught to believe and are mainstream information that is passed out to the public from organizations that we should be able to trust as far as information goes, especially when it comes to nutrition and what's good for us and good science and all of that kind of stuff. Okay. Now, there is a recommendation that we have 3 cups of dairy a day, okay? That's not based in science. That is actually based on lobbyists who work within the dairy industry many decades ago, around about the 50s, 60s, when all of this came to start. So not only lobbyists in the US, but lobbyists here in the UK, in Australia, all of them got together from the industry and decided to make this stuff up. Okay, basically what it boils down to, it's made up. It's not based in fact, it's not based in nutrition, it's not based in science, it's just what it is. Okay, so the food pyramid that we know is also a marketing tool that's been used by the food industry. It's actually not worth the paper it's printed on or the pixels that people show it out to be. It's actually not based in science. It's certainly not based in nutritional science. And it's there and people are being taught it and have been taught it all the way through school, etc., which is what we were. We were taught it through school. So we were led to believe that it was absolutely right. But it's not. Okay. Now, there have been a few studies and those I've put the links to down below in the description. where there is some really good information that's been done in scientific research, etc., that's been done on nutritional science, etc. They're all down below in the description, so you can check them out for yourselves. Everything that I tell you today is available to the public from government websites. Okay, so please don't think that I'm telling you anything that is just made up or I just read a book somewhere, because I'm not. All right, I went down a rabbit hole that took me several weeks to go down, and I got the best information that I possibly could. So one of the things that we are led to believe is that milk is really good for your bone health. Now, this is not factual at all. In fact, it can, because of the types of proteins in it, which are called anaproteins, they are actually shown to be damaging to bone health because we can't, as human beings, digest them. Okay, and they can actually cause problems with bone density, which is where osteoporosis comes in. Now, if you look at countries like Africa and Asia, they have the lowest rate of dairy consumption, because once children are weaned at around about 4, anywhere between 3 and 5, kids don't have dairy anymore. They don't. They just don't drink it. They don't get it from their animals. There's no need for it. The only time that a child in those countries will actually drink or consume dairy products is if the mother is unable to feed the child. So, that's the only time. And then they will generally get it from a goat. They won't get it from a cow. Okay. So they have the lowest rates of dairy consumption, and they also have the lowest rates of osteoporosis. Okay. Yeah, this is long stuff. Okay. So, we're pushed with the idea that calcium is the most important thing and we need dairy for calcium, and we need it for bone health, and we need it for this, and we need it for that. But calcium is the key word. Now, bones aren't actually made of calcium. That is one mineral out of 12 and 64 trace minerals that actually make up our bones. All right. It's not just calcium. The 12 minerals that are in our bones that make up our bones are calcium, chromium, boron, iron, magnesium, manganese, silica, sulfur, selenium, potassium, phosphorus, and zinc. All right. So and they're all in equal proportion to each other, which is why they're called the 12 minerals. All right. So calcium is only one of those, but it is the keyword that is used a lot to market with dairy. Okay. Now, one of the major issues that we do have with this and with consuming a lot of dairy is that the proteins in it, as I mentioned, they're called anaproteins, ANA proteins. So you can go and look those up if that's what you would like to do. We can't consume them properly. In fact, we only are able to digest and burn off as fuel 50% of them. The 42% is waste. That waste is highly acidic, and it's sulfur waste, which was really surprising to me. And I've done the degrees. Do you know what I mean? And I was sitting there going, where did I read this? And then I looked it up in my textbooks, and there it is. It's right there in my textbooks, right? So what happens is that your body tries to find a way to neutralize that acidity from those proteins. Okay. The most alkali of all is the calcium. So what happens is the calcium that you've ingested in, which is negligible in the milk, is used to neutralize the acid from the sulfur that's in there, which completely means that by the time you finish the glass of milk, you've had no calcium anyway. And that blew my mind. That blew my mind when I started actually looking into this and looking into the science behind it and all of that kind of stuff. Because even if you do a degree in nutritional science, or to become a dietitian or something like that, you can't know everything. You can't read. I mean, there's only certain things that you read because you're told you're going to have to do an assignment on this, or you're going to have to do that, or whatever. You don't read all of it. And what you do, you got so much information coming at you, the chances are that you're not going to pick up on all of it. Okay, so I had to go back, and it's been 20 years since I did my degree, probably 23 years ish since I did my degree. So it's a while since I've done it. So going back and reading all the stuff, and I was like, what on earth? I couldn't believe it. I absolutely couldn't believe it. So basically, drinking a glass of milk, you get no calcium because your body takes that calcium, neutralizes the acid from the proteins that come in with a high acidity rate, and it's literally negligible. So you're kind of sitting there going, why am I doing this again? Yeah. So where do we get our calcium from? Because obviously we do need calcium. It is important to our bodies. Where do we get it from? So our calcium, potassium, and fats that we really need for healthy bodies and healthy bones, they're gained from whole plant foods. If you look at elephants, which are the biggest land-dwelling animal on the planet, it's a vegetarian. Okay? If they feel that they need more calcium, they go for their more green leafy veg. Okay? Anyone who farms anywhere near where elephants are lose their minds, because as soon as those seeds come up, the first thing that the elephants want are the seeds. Okay, because whole grains, whole seeds from your harvest, that's where you're going to get your calcium from. It comes from the ground, from where it's supposed to, as a mineral. Yeah, it does go to show how much propaganda we get fed. And as I said, like, I'm not trying to upset anybody here. I'm just trying to educate and talk about why we're doing it the way we are through this series. So the best forms of calcium would be your green leafy veg, sesame seeds, so tahini, that kind of thing, and sea plants. So again, if you're looking at whales being the biggest sea creature on the planet, especially like blue whales, they eat krill. Well, the only other type of calcium that we as humans can take are fish bone. So things like, but they have to be things like canned sardines or canned salmon that have the bones still in them. Instead of picking them out, it's eating those as well. And the same with kippers. Like over here in the UK, kippers are a big thing. They're a smoked fish that have millions of little bones. It's impossible to pick them out, so you eat them. That's a form of calcium that we can cope with. Okay, but obviously we can't all do that, and doing this, we're not doing fish anyway. But if you are wanting to eat fish, then that is a source of calcium you can get from. So yeah, that's all of that. Now, if you're not sure about what I've just said and you think that I'm making this up, okay, I want to tell you a little story. This is story time, okay? The Federal Trade Commission, the FTC in the US, asked the USDA to look into the scientific basis of claims made in the milk mustache ads, which were a big thing in the States, where you had kids and adults with mustaches, with the white milky mustache, and they were giving out scientific or so-called scientific and nutritional information in these advertisements. But the FTC decided it'd be a good idea to see if there was any scientific basis behind it. Now, the panel of scientists that were put on this, they stated their findings very, very clearly. And these are available to anyone who wants to go and look them up, okay? They are available to everyone. Okay, it's public information. 1, milk does not benefit sports performance. That was number 1. Number 2, there is no evidence that milk is good for your bones or prevents osteoporosis. In fact, due to the anoproteins, may help bone loss. So that's bone density loss. Number 3, dairy is linked to prostate cancer in men. Number 4, it's full of saturated fats and linked to heart disease. And yet the dairy industry is one of the biggest sponsors of the Heart Foundation in several countries around the world. And the Diabetes Association all around the world, just saying. Okay, number 5, dairy causes digestive issues for 75% of people due to lactose intolerance. Now, this was one that actually blew my mind, because I thought I'd been taught that maybe it was 1 in 4 people, maybe it was 1 in 3 people that were lactose intolerant. But what we don't realize is a lot of people who are lactose intolerant don't have the severe symptoms of, you know, the explosive trips to the bathroom or the vomiting or the milk spots or any of that. People don't all have those. They do have things like headaches. They tend to fall asleep. You get sugar spikes. You get issues with that you can't see. There's also issues with mucus buildup. So if you start coughing and cough up a load of mucus all of a sudden after having, you know, your cheese fest at Christmas, well, that would probably be part of it. So yeah, and the 6th one they found was dairy aggravates irritable bowel syndrome. Now, this is why my live had to be rescheduled for today. Okay, so my live was supposed to be on Friday. I couldn't do it because on Wednesday, Tanny, bless his heart, trying to be supportive of my journey with this, he bought me some spinach and ricotta rolls from the bakery, which is similar to a sausage roll, but they're for vegetarians. So he's trying to be really supportive. And that was his way of doing that. Unfortunately, about an hour after I ate those, I was in tears and I was clinging to the bathroom as if my life depended on it. I had a bucket in my hands and I was there and I wasn't leaving. And the cramping and the crying and the lack of sleep and the pain I was in for the next 5 days, I can't even tell you. So it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So yeah, 4 days, sorry, Saturday and Sunday, I was still feeling it. This morning, not so bad, still feeling the effects, but not quite to the same extent. So dairy is definitely something that is out for me. It's never coming back, ever, ever, ever. Other health issues, they also listed a bunch of health issues that are also linked to dairy. There's allergies, sinus issues, ear infections, type 1 diabetes, chronic constipation, and anemia in children. Okay, so they're pretty huge things. Okay, let's be honest. They are pretty huge things. And for a lot of us, we sit back and we think, oh, yeah, well, we've been told that that's okay. But you need to start looking at our history and our food history when it comes down to this. Now, up until the 1950s, late 40s, early 50s, we really didn't do a lot of dairy farming. Dairy farming wasn't a massive thing. There was only a small amount of dairy farming that was done. And all of a sudden, there was an explosion. And that was because there were a lot of children and a lot of adults who had been undernourished during the time of rationing in several countries around the world. And to try and build up these kids and to build up the adults, they started making dairy much more accessible to the everyday person. Up until this point, these kinds of health conditions were only seen in the very affluent. And we only really ate cheese during winter when we needed the extra fat on our bones to keep us going through winter so that we wouldn't get exposure and things like that. So it wasn't something that we ate every day. It was something that was eaten in the middle of winter when we needed to actually keep our body fats going. Okay, so up until then, it wasn't an everyday thing. It really, really wasn't. So it's, oh, good. What have we got? Annette says, I've switched to almond milk and a dairy-free spread. Looking forward to hopefully seeing some changes. Yeah, that would be awesome. Tony says, buffering. I'm so sorry. I'm catching about every 5 words. Is anyone else having issues with buffering? Is it me? Is it just me? Or is it Tony? Because if it's Tony, well, you know, that's a him problem. Oh, bless. It's all good. All good here? Okay, cool. No worries. No worries, dude. It's fine, bro. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. So the other thing that they found with dairy is that it is actually quite damaging for women and women's health and hormones, etc. Because at the end of the day, milk and dairy is full of hormones, including growth hormones, even natural growth hormones, because that's what it is. It's there to make a 200-kilo baby turn into, you know, a massive 1 to 2 to 3 ton heifer, you know, in a year. It's not there to just do nothing. It's there to create a very small being into an incredibly huge one. Okay, so even when we had issues with mothers who couldn't feed their babies, they'd go to smaller animals. So they would go to things like goats, or they'd go to sheep, but they wouldn't go to cows. Cows, this is very, very relatively new. So this is a major thing that we need to look at as well. And it does cause major hormone imbalance in women, which when you get to this kind of ages that some of us are around here and we might be perimenopausal or whatever, that's not a good thing, because it does cause other health issues when you have an imbalance of hormones going on. But it, you know, so it is what it is. But you know, these are things. But like I said, I'm not here to belittle anyone if, you know, with what they're doing. But these are the nutritional and scientific research facts behind dairy and the truth of what it does to the human body. Okay, so the only real creature that can access the calcium that is in cow's milk are cows, and the reason they have that is because their stomach is made up of 4 compartments. Okay, so they have the capability of actually going from one stomach to another part of the stomach to the other part of the stomach to the other part of the stomach, so that it actually goes through all of the different sorts of digestive tracts that it needs to do. Okay, so yeah, that's bottom line. And when people say, you know, cow's milk is really meant for baby cows, it really, really is. Let's be honest. Okay, like I said, it's meant to make this tiny little baby into a massive, huge creature in the shortest possible time, which is in basically 12 months. So, you know, that's what we have at the moment. So yeah, that's where we go with calcium. But if you're not doing calcium, if you're not doing, sorry, that's where you go with dairy. So if you aren't doing dairy and you want to have alternatives, I'm going to take you into the other room right now, and we're going to make a few alternatives. Now, As I said, I'm not going to be doing soy milk because it is way too hot in this house right now. We are hitting probably almost 40 degrees inside Celsius. And there is no way that I'm putting on anything that's going to make that hotter than it already is. Okay, but there are ways of making milk alternatives, dairy alternatives without cooking, which is a really, really massive bonus. So I'm going to bring up my other. I'm going to hide myself and I'm going to make a run for it into the other room. There we go. Pardon me. Right. Ta-da! Here we are. Okay. Hello. So, this isn't very... Sorry about this. There we go. Right. So, what we're going to do first is we're going to go through a few items that we can use for making dairy alternatives. Let's have a look. Annette says, I'm going to start doing more research on carbs in regards to my type 2 diabetes. Cool. Next week, we're going to be talking about flour, wheat flour, etc. and why it isn't quite the way it used to be. Okay. So, you know, we're going to go through that. So that's going to be the start of the carbs thing. Right. A blender. You actually do need this one, I'm afraid, guys. You really, really do. If you're going to be doing this. Now, mine is not fancy in any way, shape or form. It just is what it is. But what I have here is a 2 kilo bag of oats. Now, that cost me £3.85. Now, to make a 1.5 litres, 2 litres of oat milk is going to take a cup, maybe not even a cup, half a cup of, well, no, it's cup, isn't it? So it's cup to 5 cups of water. So that's what we've got. So we're going to do that one first because it's going to be the easiest. But the other things that you can use as well, you've got the options of nuts. Okay. So we've got things like walnuts, cashew nuts, hazelnuts. You can also use almonds, obviously. Whatever nuts that you have will basically make a milk type substitute. Okay. The other thing that you can use are things like tiger nuts. Now, these aren't a nut. They're not a seed. They're a rhizome. Okay. And they are grown in the ground. You can grow these yourself, but you do need to soak them overnight. And they do require a modicum, a small amount, maybe 10 minutes boiling to get them to a stage where you can actually blend them up. So, yeah, that's probably it for those. And then you can do exactly what I'm going to show you here. The other things you can use are things like pumpkin seeds. You can use sunflower seeds and you can use hemp seeds. All right, they're all, you can use all of those as well. There's no problem with those. The other one that everybody knows about is soy milk. I have mentioned that I'm not going to be making that today. There is a reason. I need to cook it first. It does require some cooking. So what I'll do is I'll put a video out on Friday on that so that you guys have that. All right. But what we are going to, and when it is very hot, the last things you want to do is cook. So we're going to start off by doing some oat milk. Now, whatever size cup you're using, whether you're just using a cup from your kitchen, if you don't have measuring cups, I'm just using
one of our smaller coffee cups. I'm just going to pop that straight into the blender. Okay, now whatever cup you've used to measure your oats is the size cup that you're going to use to measure your water. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last bit for luck. Okay, because we need the jug. We're going to need the jug to put the milk in. So, you know, it's important. Now, I need the lid. Here we go. Here's the lid. There's going to be a bit of noise. So rude. Okay, it's so rude. Now you want to be doing this for a couple of minutes so you get a really frothy milk. Now my blender is actually cracked on the side, so it's got a little bit of leakage happening, so I apologize for that. There we go. And that's literally it, guys. Seriously, that's it. All right. So what we're going to do, oh, leakage everywhere. We're going to grab a strainer. Now, if you wanted to, you could use a muslin or a nut milk cloth or whatever to do this, like a cheesecloth. I'm just going to use the strainer for today. And we're going to pour this straight into our jug. Okay. Just going to let that sit for a minute. Okay. Now there is a reason for this. Number one, you don't really want chunky milk. No one likes chunky milk. Doesn't matter if it's dairy or non-milk dairy. You know, chunky milk is not a great sales pitch. Let's be honest. Okay. So we're just going to let that, we're going to get those oats out. Now, you can use those oats again. Now, you could use them to make oatmeal. You could use them to do whatever you want. You could dry them out, use them as oat flour for any kind of baking or anything else that you're doing that day. That's not a problem at all. So there's no wastage, okay? The other thing is that, I don't have one here, but the little litre containers that you buy of oat milk here in the UK used to be, last year, they were 90p for a litre. Okay, so that's, a litre's what? Just almost 2 pints. All right. But now is £1.35 for a litre. So it's quite expensive. This 2 kilo bag of oats is £3.80. It's more expensive than the others. I will say that, but it is, they are meant to be where's the thing? I don't know. They were supposed to be organic. It doesn't say organic on the packet now, but it did say it on the label. But they are supposed to be organic. They are supposed to be pretty good. So, you know, I thought I'd give them a go. But you can buy cheap oats. We can get a 2 kilo bag for like 90p if you go for the basic range. It doesn't matter if they're rolled quick oats. normal oats, whatever. If you get the if you're able to get oat groats, which are the actual seeds, that's cool, not a problem there either. So you can do this with any of those at all. So it doesn't matter if you find an offer on oats, just get the best that you can afford with any of these things. That's all I'm saying. So, but that 2 kilo bag will probably do me, gosh, that's probably cost us about 40p to make this almost 2 liters of oat milk. So I'm just gonna pour off a little bit more here. Oh, I really need a spoon. I didn't get a spoon. Just hold, please. I'll be back. Ooh. Okay, I'm back. Ta-da! Hey, Sika, how you doing, darling? How do, friend? I had a present from you today. Thank you. He's lovely. Everybody else will have to wait and find out on Thursday. So we're just going to move this liquid through here. We don't want to push the oats through. The oats won't go through anyway. She's gone, let's dance on the table. I'm back. Yeah, it's quick. I mean, the kitchen's right there, mate. It's good to see you going slowly nowhere. Lovely to see you. Okay. So we've almost got, so if you're using a nut bag or something like that to do this with, you can squeeze it. No, you don't need to hide. You don't need to hide. He's sitting on my desk at the moment. Right. There we go. So. So we're going to get all of that liquid out as we possibly can. The other thing about making your own oat milk is that there's no additives. It's just, has the other box I mailed today arrived? What? No? Good grief. Okay. So there's our little oat groats, what's left of the oats that we popped in the blender. Now, if you really wanted to, you could do this twice. You'd get a much thinner, not quite so milky texture. But if you want to make this use this as flour, you can use it, and use it right now if that's what you want to do, but remove some of the liquid from the recipe that you're making. Or you can put it in your dehydrator and wash it out. Okay. So that's the oat milk. Now, there you go. There's your oat milk. And honestly, 5 minutes, a little bit of cleanup, because obviously my blender is cactus. I need a new one. Ooh. Okay. So there we go. That's our oat milk. Now that's twice as much as you're going to get in a little packet from the supermarket or a little box from the supermarket. And it's cost us a third of the price. So, you know, and it can be less than that, because if you are buying the 90p oats, you know, or the really, really cheap basic grains oats, you know, it's going to be even less again. So, you know, it's worth doing. Like I said, it is also, you know what's in it. There are no thickening agents in this. There's nothing like that. If you did want to use this for coffee or tea or one of your brews or something like that, what you want to do is you want to put 2 or 3 times as much as you would normally use in it. Put it in the bottom of the cup. Don't put it in afterwards, okay? The reason being that it will shock and you'll end up with lumpy stuff in your brew. But if you put it in down the bottom and then pour the water on top, the boiling water on top, what you'll end up with is that it warms through with the milk rather than gets shocked, okay? So that's how to avoid that. Now, the next one I'm going to make, okay, I'm just putting that to the side because I'm going to use that for smoothies and things during the week. Okay. The next one I'm going to make is something that not everybody makes. I'm not going to lie, but it's a very cheap one to make. And if you like that kind of earthiness in a brew or in, you know, thou shalt not spook the oats. No spooking the oats. And that goes for nut milks as well, and any kind of like milk alternative. If you put it in after the hot water, it will shock itself and it will go it will go quite nasty, and we don't want that because, like I said, nobody likes my lumpy milk. It doesn't matter if it's plant-based or dairy-based. All right, okay, I'm not going to wash this out because you're not drinking it. I am, so get over it. But I am actually going to make myself some walnut milk. Now, walnut milk you cannot buy. You can't find it in the shops. It doesn't exist. But it has a really nice earthiness to it, which I find is really nice in some smoothies and things, and to drink by itself. And actually, if you're making something like a chocolate maca smoothie, which is actually on the meal plan, it's really nice in that. Like, really nice in that. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing again. The other reason that I'm doing this is because I buy broken walnuts and they are really cheap compared to a lot of other nuts. So, yeah, I'm going to use those instead. So we've got our cup of walnuts straight in, and we're going to put in our water. There we go. We're going to get our lid like this. Right, guys, now I need you to hold your ears for a second, okay? This is going to get really, really noisy. All right, and I'm just hoping that my blender will hold out and won't explode everywhere, although that could make for a really interesting clip for a short. I'm just saying. But you know, we'll just go for it and see how we go. Mr. Seeker, you're being very naughty. Very, very naughty. Behave yourself, young man. Behave yourself. Okay, so I've got a bit of leakage happening all over the place here. I think this is cracked in more than one spot, but we'll just go for it and see what happens. And nut milks do take a little bit longer, I'm afraid, but it's just the nature of them. And especially in this old girl, she's done me proud for a few years, but you know, she's on her way out. So, you know, it is what it is. Why is that? That's like leaking milk underneath. Why is that happening? Oh, that is weird. That must be going through. Oh, that's scary. Okay. Okay. Yours seems to do a better job than mine. I have to use way less liquid to get to milky mash, all the other bits, or spend an hour covering my ears. No, I get that. Okay, so the same thing here. We're just going to pour this through the sieve because we want to keep the walnut meal. Okay, this is a real problem. That's leaking through the machine. That's really disturbing, guys. It's literally leaked through the machine. Yeah, okay. Not so pleased about that, I'll have to admit. Okay, I'm not sure I really want to use it at this point. Okay. And the same thing with the nut grits that you get from these. You can use these, like I've now got walnut flour. Yes, I can have it dried out, or I can use it straight away in something, you know, depending on what I'm doing right now. I'm not using them right now, so they're going in containers. So yeah. But you want to try and get as much of that liquid out as possible. You can do this twice, as I said, but I choose not to. Yoink. All right. Now, it is possible to do this in the food processor, but you will be doing what going slowly nowhere is said, and it will take a lot longer to do. Okay, so, but, you know, whatever works, yeah? The other thing is as well, even if you do drink dairy, these are really good ways of having an alternative if the dairy is not available. Behave yourself, young man. Okay. Right. So what I'm going to do is get my other container. Oof. And we're going to put all our walnut meal in that other container. Now, like I said, you could use this to making cookies. You could do cakes with it. You could do whatever you wanted with it. You could even use it to go into like vegetarian sausages and stuff like that. Nut roasts, all of that kind of stuff. It freezes fine. So if you're not going to want to use it right now, that's not a problem either. Okay. I'm just going to plop that in there like that. Okay, and there we have it, our walnut milk. Now it's a little bit darker. It looks a bit more like a quite a sort of earthy milk. I'm trying to think of an animal I've seen a really dark milk like this off. I mean, I left this the skins on my walnuts, so that's one thing. But you don't have to. You can blanch them and get the skins off if that's what you want to do. But you know, it makes a really nice earthy kind of milk. Yum. Yeah. See, I think that would be perfect in the chocolate maca smoothies, actually, to be fair, or something with banana base. That would be really yummy as well. You could almost do like a banana bread smoothie with this, and it would be lush. Can you imagine? Right? That would be amazing. So yeah, now we're going to pop back to the office. I'm going to pop back to the office because we've done those. Yeah, but these milks will stay in the fridge for 3 to 5 days. Okay, so that's more than enough milk for me for 3 to 5 days. I'm just because I'm doing smoothies now, it's probably a good thing. You can also use these for making like creamy soups and stuff like that. That'll be really good. But like I said, we're going to the office right now.
Hello, I am back. Polar bear milk is rather dark, if I recall right, but I'm not going out the milk one to check. No, I wouldn't either, to be fair. I wouldn't either. Wait. Hang on a second, Seeker. What was this? Do you know that if a person is allergic to Brazil nuts, they can get a shock from their partner if said partner has been eating them? Quite possibly. And that would go for things like peanuts as well. That would be the same issue with peanuts, to be honest, because I think the allergy, like a lot of the nut allergies, are actually not to do with the nut. They're actually to do with the mold spores that grow on the nuts. Peanut allergy, it's not actually peanuts, it is the mold spores that grow on the peanuts. So if you give kids peanuts before they're about 5 or 6, and in most cases, you don't want to give kids nuts until they're about 7 years old. Otherwise, this can be an issue. I am getting some serious eye stuff going on. Because they can't handle it. The babies can't handle it. And then you want to kind of limit that kind of thing as well. But if you can buy or you grow your own nuts, then use as many as you want. But you want to be very careful about how long you keep your nuts for, especially if they're out of the shells. I did not hear peanut. Yeah, peanuts. So there you go. That's our part on dairy. I hope you guys have really got something out of this. If you've got any questions or anything, please hit me with them, because, you know, we've got a few more minutes to go. Yeah. Yeah, polar bear milk would be rather dark because it would have a much more fat content to it, I would imagine. A lot of animals like that would be having quite a dark milk because of the fat content, which is basically what's happened with that walnut milk, is that because it's got quite a high fat content. Jokes aside, some of the nut proteins passes through men and can cause allergies. Yes, they can. Yes, they can. You want to be a little bit careful, but I mean, by the time you're an adult, you know what you can and can't have. Nut allergies tend to be ones that are from childhood. They're not ones that tend to come out when you're an adult, unlike things like allium allergies and things like that. So, you know, it's just watching what you can do, what you can't. Now, if you want to make seed milks like sunflower seed or pumpkin seed or anything like that, it's the same process, exactly the same process. Making any kind of milk alternative, exactly the same process. The other thing as well that I'd like to do at some point, and in fact, there's a really cool channel. I just want to have a look for it because I want to show you guys. Is it? No. Mary's Test Kitchen, that's the one. Okay, so I'm going to put this out in chat. Okay, so Mary's Test Kitchen, she does a lot of, she's done a huge amount actually of different types of tofus and stuff you can make from all kinds of beans and nuts and seeds and all kinds of things. So have a look over on her channel as well and check out what she's been doing with different types of tofu, because honestly, you know, it can get really boring eating the same thing over and over again. But if you can change it up by making your own different types of milks and things like that, that really does help. Now, the one thing that we haven't discussed is vegan or plant-based cheese. Now, I hate using the word vegan for this series because it's got nothing to do with being vegan. It's all to do with being plant-based whole foods. So, being able to make your own milks and stuff like that, but also cheese. Now, a lot of people get really upset because they can't have cheese and things like that. I am one of them. Hi, my name's Blue. I'm a cheeseaholic. But it's very difficult to find a really good plant-based cheese that does everything you want, that has that kind of bite to it, that has, you know, has the meltability, that it doesn't have a strange aftertaste in your mouth and all of that kind of thing. Now, there's a reason for that, because at the end of the day, it's not cheese. It's plant-based stuff that's had a lot of thickness in it and a lot of processes gone through to be able to make it into cheese, which is why I tend to go, do you know what? I can't be bothered with this. I tend not to use a lot of it. I prefer the cream-based, plant-based cheeses rather than the ones that are pretending to be something that they really, really aren't. But I will be doing some videos over the next few weeks that show you different ways of making those, because I think there's enough out there that, you know, you don't, the point, if you want to replace something with something else, you're going to find yourself a little bit disappointed because you're not used to it. All right, it's not going to be exactly what you want. It's not going to be exactly what you expect. Okay, it's going to be different, and it's getting used to those differences, and that's where the mindset thing comes in, is understanding that there are differences when it comes to all of this stuff, but also not worrying about them either. Okay, so don't leave yourself open for disappointment. Make sure you read everything. And there are a couple of books below that also have been written by a Dr. Robert Thompson. One is called The Calcium Lie, and the other one is The Calcium Lie 2, where he goes over a lot of all the information that I gave you in the first part of this live in much better detail and more proper detail. So it gives you a chance to have a look at those, but they're quite widely available. So yeah, I would have a read. Indeed, it seems like the brain registers it as milk gone off for a lot of people. Yeah, exactly. But it's not. It's, you know, we're trying to do something that's really good for people here. And if you are in a situation where you've got health issues, which means that you need to stop doing certain things, and having certain foods, then what I'm doing is I'm showing the alternatives, and I'm showing why and explaining why you might be having the problems that you're having with the certain foods that you're eating, and why we are having these alternatives instead. Okay, so I think understanding that is a really huge thing, and understanding that your body it's not going to be exactly what you know, it's an alternative. It's not the same. Okay, that's the thing. And getting your brain to register, it isn't the same. Okay, so I think we've done really well today, guys. I'm going to be moving this live to Mondays from now on. We've now had to do 2 on a Monday, so we may as well continue on the Monday. And I'll pop the video that I was going to pop out on a Monday out on a Friday instead. So we're going to be doing that. And of course, there's all sorts of videos in between and all sorts of shenanigans going on. So please don't think that nothing else is going on, because there's going to be a lot going on, a lot of things going on. And just because I'm on this journey doesn't mean Tanny is. So yeah, there will be other videos being made with traditionally made food, because Tanny has to eat too, let's be honest. So yeah. And he says, I'm missing a lot of my favorite foods. No, I totally get that, darling. But I tell you what, after about 2 months of having the alternatives, you don't notice it. You don't. And you don't dwell on it, because you just think, well, I'm grabbing that and that's what I have, right? So then your brain starts getting used to the fact that, oh, I'm having that. And then it starts registering what's going on. And then the changes in your body start happening. And your brain keeps going, oh, well, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. And you don't miss it as much. It does take a while to get off those things, because things like sugars and all of that kind of stuff, they can be hard to come off. But, you know, there's a lot of really good alternatives out there, and we're going to go through those over the next 30 weeks. So, guys, if you are wanting to get the 5 weekly meal plan for yourselves, it's going to be about the meal plan itself, and the breakfast recipes will all be available on Etsy on Friday. If you are a Patreon, they are in Patreon right now waiting for you to download. The lunch ones will be coming out, or the main meal ones, so the main meals and the sides will be coming out in 5 weeks' time. It's the potato chips, especially salt and vinegar chips. No, I totally get that. I totally do. But you know what? You can actually do them as baked ones. Okay, so if you use things like parsnips, carrots, beetroot, sweet potato, and slice them like you would thin chips, okay, and sprinkle a bit of salt over the top, and you can bake them off so that they're nice and thin. You can even do it in a dehydrator if you wanted to, but it's better off in the oven. You can do them that way, and they come out real good. I'm just saying, I'm just saying, it's an option. It's an option. Yes, homemade sweet potato chips might be worth trying to make, or sunchoke chips, kale, absolutely. Going slowly nowhere. Thank you very much for adding that. Absolutely. Yeah, I got my alternatives. I know what I'm doing. Okay, so in 5 weeks' time, we're going to have the main meals and sides ones coming out. The breakfast ones, all the breakfast ones are coming out in a block, or you can buy them individually. There'll be options anyway for people. But yeah, if you are a Patreon and you are in there, they're already available. And they're a lot cheaper than going on Etsy. I'm just saying, you get access to all sorts of different recipe cards and all sorts of stuff going on as well behind the scenes. So I will see you guys later on. Have an awesome rest of your day, and take it easy. I love you guys heaps. Mwah.